Hello, loves. I'm gonna give everybody a second to come through. I am sorry we're late today. My Wi-Fi went out for some reason. I swear that router's been giving me issues like all year. Um, but yeah, it went out unfortunately, so I couldn't get it up. So I'm using my hotspot right now to try to get the live to kind of work for as long as it can. But I'm going to probably like stop the live at 30 minutes instead, because I'm basically doing everything instead of on Wi-Fi on my phone. And because I just went camping, I don't know if I have enough of a hotspot um, data left. So I don't want it to just cut off randomly. So if you're watching this at a later time or rewatching later, and you're like, wait, what happened to the live or whatnot? My Wi-Fi went out and I'm using it on the router right now. So I'm sorry if it cuts off or anything like that. That's just, I don't know what to do. I was trying to fix it. I was trying to like kind of work with it and make it work, but it wasn't working. So yeah, we're going to cut it off at 30 minutes instead of the usual hour. Because I'm going to try to see if I can call so somebody can come fix it again. I think we need a new router. But like literally we just got a new one and it just still got cut off. I don't know what's going on with that. So yeah, I'm going to go live on El TikTok. Okay, there we go. Let me just, hold on. Right there. Hold on. I'm like trying to position this in a way that makes sense. Okay, does that work? I think it does. Possibly. Okay, no, it doesn't. Hold on, y'all. A lot of technical difficulties today. Hello, TikTok. Let me just. Which one? Let me do this. This is what I'm gonna do. Try to crop this out a little bit so that everybody can see me. Oh, and babe is calling me. Sorry, babe, I'm doing the live. So yeah, I'm just gonna repeat everything that I just pretty much said a second ago, because I know everybody's coming in right now. But today I'm just going to finish the live earlier because my Wi-Fi went out, and so I am going like entirely by the my hotspot, and I don't have enough gigabytes to do the whole hour. And I know it's going to shut off. So instead of letting it shut off, I'm just going to do the 30 minutes and then close it off there, because I just came back from camping, which by the way, you guys are going to get that vlog soon. But I just came back from camping and I don't want it to, I was using the hotspot over there. So that's why I'm like, I don't want it to go off here and stop it. So if it does for some reason go off, then I apologize, and we will still see each other in the not only the prayer circle for this week, because we're doing those weekly, but we're also going to be doing our weekly community oracle poll as well, which was a little bit crazy last week, y'all. We were here for 2 hours. Hello, everybody. Hi. Hey, Nat. How are you? How is everybody? Hey. Hello. Hello. Oh my God. Everybody's just like here. Hello. What is up? Listen. Hey. But yeah, we got the router fixed this year, and it's like already like messed up. So yeah, that's why I'm a little late. I'm sorry about that. But we'll be on for 30 minutes. I already have the chart pulled up, and we got quite a bit of things to talk about, because right now the energy of the chart is very much, it's like a little bit of everything. Like if you look at the chart, it's like the generational planets are still in retro. So they're still doing their retrograde things. Okay. But for the most part, the personal planets are very much a little bit of everything. You got a little bit of air, you got a little bit of water, you got a little bit of fire, you got a little bit of, earth. And so there's definitely this more kind of elemental wise, a little bit more of a balanced energy coming through from the personal planets. But we're still heavily focusing on healing. That should be the focus right now. You should be focusing on healing. That should be a priority, because that is what ultimately Virgo season is about. It's really about getting your shit together. Yeah, no, I'm gonna keep it blunt, but it's really about getting your shit together. And so when it comes to I just said get your shit together, and the card that came out was the Justice card. Who is surprised? Who is surprised? Why? Because Libra season is coming. And because when you get your shit together, I've said this 1,000 times, like the whole point of why Libras rule justice and balance, right? Because when everything is in balance, you feel at peace. You're at peace. You're happy. You're feeling pleasure. Can't forget that Libra is ruled by Venus. If it was ruled by like Saturn, even though Saturn loves being in Libra, there's a different kind of karmic energy with that. But when it's with Venus, there's a reminder that there is a focus on feeling good about the thing, not just necessarily, oh, you need to feel at balance to feel higher or above anybody or whatever. No, it's so you can find peace. When you're at peace, you're going to feel good within that peace. So there's a lot going on this week, because if you look at the planetary energies, we're starting with the sun in Virgo. Right now, the moon is in Sagittarius. Mercury is in Libra. Venus is in Scorpio. Mars is in Virgo. Jupiter is in Aquarius in retrograde. Saturn is in Aquarius in retrograde. Uranus is in Taurus in retrograde. Neptune is in Pisces in retrograde. And Pluto is in Capricorn in retrograde. So there's still a lot of things going on collectively with the generational planets. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of healing. There's a lot of learning. There's a lot of ancestor work that's being done right now. And I do feel like for quite some time, while Pluto has been in Capricorn, there's been a highlight on connecting back to the ancestors, connecting to our bloodline, connecting to, you know, our heritage, connecting to our people, and the legacy of that as well. Like, what is the legacy of the blood that you're carrying, right? And we're going to be doing some more ancestor work as well within the next year. You guys are going to see a lot more ancestral videos. And I did an update. I forgot to post it on YouTube because I was literally went for the camping trip this weekend. But I did an update for the Healing America State by State ceremony to heal the land. And you guys are going to get that update within the next, probably tonight or tomorrow. But I had moved the date because of Hurricane Larry. That's kind of like the update of it. But I moved the date because of Hurricane Larry. And because of, you know, Hurricane Ida. I was like gauging the time, and I was just like, this is not necessarily the best time, because everybody's like either some people are recuperating, some people are like, you know, and I got a couple of emails from folks saying, you know, hey, I'm not going to be able to participate right now because of the, you know, the hurricane. So I was like, you know what, I cannot, you know, push this right now. So I'm giving it a window of like recalibration, like that balance, before we push on and do that ceremony, because that's going to be a powerful ceremony anyway. Whatchamacalls it? Oh, I got a question. Hold on. Hey, I commented, but I haven't seen anything responding, but I have a question. I was wondering, because I've been feeling something like to reach out, but I'm nervous that if I work with her, I have to give up working with my other saints. So that's not necessarily how it works when it comes to working with Santa Muerte. Also, by the way, you should probably follow me on YouTube, because I'm about to post a Santa Muerte series on my YouTube, because I was requested to do so on Instagram, which is still coming. So you should probably be following me on YouTube as well, just so you can not miss out on that series, because I'm going to break down all of her colors and everything like that. But that's not necessarily how it works with Santa Muerte. I wouldn't necessarily tell you to put her next to all of your other saints, because there are some spirits that don't like being next to each other, like just pantheon to pantheon. That's just not how it works. But Santa Muerte is not going to tell you not to work with other saints or spirits or beings. That's not how it works. I mean, I feel like it's different when you are initiated into something. There are some spirits and some laws and some beings who are very, you know, judgmental, or like very like they'll tell you like, what the hell are you doing? Like, I've seen that happen before. But for the most part, Santa Muerte is not gonna like give you shit for working with other saints. The other thing that you need to understand about working with spirit is that it's not just them working with you, but is also you're consenting to work with Santa Muerte. If Santa Muerte is like coming up for you, reaching out or whatnot, and you're kind of getting that like signal, she's not forcing that on you. She's signaling to you, hey, I'm here if you need me, right? But this is not, you need to work with me, you need to stop what you're doing, you need to be, that's not what that looks like. Consent is the most important thing spiritually, and the only spirits or beings that over, go do the most with consent, that do, that cross the line with consent, are like lower entities, lower vibrational entities, trickster spirits, demons on occasion, and spirits that don't care about consent. But for the most part, consent is a really, really big deal. And there's some spirits that will trick you into give them consent as well. But consent is a really big deal. If you are, working with a specific spirit or within a specific pantheon or whatnot, you are consenting to work with those spirits. Therefore, you are the one that is making that connection. It's kind of like you can't charge your phone without putting it in the plug, but you have to choose if you're going to charge it or not. You have to choose if that's going to happen. You can't just, ask the cord or the wall, hey, I don't know if the wall wants me to charge it. It's there for you if you want to use it. It's very much, they're tools to an extent. But there are still entities. They do have opinions about certain things. And some spirits can be very, very opinionated and can be very blunt. I'm not gonna lie to you, they can be very blunt. And there's some spirits that don't, again, you have to keep, if you're gonna work with it, you're gonna keep the altar separate, because some spirits do not care to be near each other or to acknowledge each other in other ways. I personally work with different beings from different pantheons. So I do work with Santa Muerte, but I also work with like 21 divisions, Los Misterios, and I do a lot of Kemetic spirituality as well. I have a lot of different spirits. I can't go over all of them today. But, I'm not, going to disrespect them by putting them all in the same place. But also, I'm not working with them. Like, it's kind of like, you have to look at it as a phone, okay? You have a phone, you have contacts, okay? Sometimes you're going to call your friend Maria. Sometimes you're going to call your friend John or whatnot, right? It's different. You're dialing to different people. They're not the same. Spirits are not the same. Santos, they're not the same. So you cannot treat them exactly the same. So just as long as you respect their own pantheon, their own history, their own practices, their own spiritual practices, you should be fine. But I will tell you, there are going to be times that you're going to, like, especially if you're focusing on getting initiated or something like that, 1000%, there's going to be certain times where you might be told that you shouldn't be working with X, Y, and Z or whoever, but that will come through a reading or something like that. But it won't be something that's like it's like forced kind of thing. You have to make that decision if you want to continue to work with whoever you want to work with, because a lot of us have relationships with these spirits. So it's kind of like, I'm not going to tell you who to be friends with. You know what I mean? I'm not going to tell you don't be in a relationship with whoever. I'm going to tell you to respect that person, just as I would tell you to respect any other person that you're in a relationship with. But, it's just about working with them correctly. Think of it like that. That's all I'm going to say. I hope that helped. Morning was super chaotic. Yeah, today was a little bit, it took me a minute, but I was doing readings all day, and then I started doing laundry because I just came back from camping. And then I threw myself into readings, laundry, and then I went to the supermarket and got some food. And then I'm like over here trying to edit some videos for you guys so I can post it. And then the whole freaking Wi-Fi went down, and I'm just like, damn it, why does this happen? Why? People thought I missed it. I was devastated. No, we here. You guys know, I'm a Capricorn and everything, but I really like, I know I'm ruled by time and everything, but time is a social construct at the same time. Like I'm also aware of that. Like, I also don't like, I've never liked the emphasis on controlling time. Because it doesn't seem productive, and there's so many, like, the way I understand time, I could literally go on a rant about time. As a Capricorn, I could go on a rant about time because that's one of the things I personally rule. That's why we can be very controlling peoples. But I don't like the way time is kind of like, even when I say like, okay, the live will be at 8 o'clock and stuff like that. And then something happens or whatnot. Like, I can't control what happened within that time. I can try to make it work with whatever I have, but it's like, there's certain things that you cannot control. And the fact that we, as a society, collectively try to like basically colonize time and like force ourselves into a strict kind of routine pisses me the fuck off. Especially because it wasn't like that in ancient times. Like, there were certain times that, yes, needed to be honored, but for the most part, there was a little bit more liberation, and that shit just, don't get me ranting about time today. Let's not do that. Let's not do that, but we're still here though. Also, thank you to everyone who came to the weekly prayer circle, because it was absolutely amazing, and I felt the energy was so powerful. Like, it was just really, really, really amazing. So I hope that everybody enjoyed doing the weekly prayer circle, because we're going to be doing it every week. And the goal is to have it for 20 minutes. I'm going to try to do it every Wednesday, because Wednesday is, day of Mercury communication. Every Wednesday or Thursday, because, Jupiter, abundance, blessings, expansion, all that. So it's either going to be on Wednesdays or Thursdays, and we're going to focus 20 minutes, and it's just going to be prayer. We're just going to pray for each other. We're going to pray for our community. We're going to pray for whatever it is that we need to pray for during that time. I definitely want to make sure that we are, all working together, because we all should be doing these types of ceremonies together. I feel like there's a lot of disconnect between like people collectively, and it's so hard for people to, especially now with COVID and everything like that, like, it's been hard for us to connect in person and stuff, but we need to get back on the collective flow. So if we're going to use technology, then we're going to be having a weekly prayer circle every week. We're going to get into prayer, and the Patreon members specifically, and the channel members specifically, will get to vote on the topic that we're praying for, and then we'll be adding prayers to whatever the comments is every single week. So if you missed the weekly prayer circle, you have to kind of be in the live to participate if you want to add your prayer to it. If not, you could do the prayer afterwards, but you'll include every single thing that we would be saying. But it was absolutely, absolutely beautiful, and I'm really, really glad that you guys came through for that. So definitely stay tuned, because we're going to be doing that every week. I'm so glad that you guys enjoyed it. Seriously. I feel like we all needed that. And it's also such a great thing to start doing Virgo season, because Virgo season has been a little bit of a roller coaster. I don't know if that's just me, but it has been a little bit of a roller coaster. There's been a lot going on, and I feel like even with nature, with the nature spirits, I just went camping, and it was such a beautiful time, but like, the nature spirits were very, very active during the time. There was a lot of like grounding. There was just a lot. I'm gonna go over that on the vlog, but it was just really, really beautiful, relaxing. I definitely needed it. I really needed that grounding. But a lot has been happening to nature, y'all. A lot has been happening to nature, and so it's kind of been one of those things where it's been nice, kind of getting to reground, and getting to reconnect with like the spirits, the nature spirits specifically, because I do a lot of nature work. But yeah. It's a good time to do blockbuster work. It is a really good time to kind of like clear the mess a little bit, clear the tension, clear clear like a lot of different obstacles, especially because the generational planets are just in retrograde. They're just like saying like, hey, can you clean up the mess that has been accumulating here, both mentally, spiritually, physically? Like, can you please clean this up? There's been quite a big mess that we have made for ourselves. And I feel like a lot of the time people interpret retrogrades in this very strict kind of way, where they try to look at it as, in retrogrades, this is the only thing that can happen, blah, 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 and that's it. But you have to understand that retrogrades are there and present because the energy of the planets are acting and behaving in a different way. It's a different perception of their own, it's a different manifestation of their own energy. And so when it comes to nature, even with y'all, Uranus has been in Taurus for quite a bit. We've talked about Uranus and Taurus a couple of times now. And this is one of the reasons why everything that's happening to it, and also Pluto being in Capricorn, you can't have two generational planets being in Earth signs and not have anything happen to the planet. That's just not how it works, because the Earth signs are very deeply grounded, deeply connected to the Earth. And so there's a lot happening with nature. There's a lot happening with the nature spirits, with the Earth, nature-wise, like with the climate, with like the way that we've been treating the Earth for such a long time, or you see like a breaking point of certain things. There's just like so much, like it's almost like you can only shit on it so much before it shits on you back. That's really how it feels like. And it's not easy. It's not easy. It's really not easy to kind of work through that energy, and at the same time, with your own stuff that's going on with you, because the generational planets affect us on a personal level and affect us collectively. We are all collectively being impacted by the issues that we are all going through. So it's not just, all millennials are going through X, Y, Z, and B, and all of Gen Z is going through it. No, there's a personal way that the generational planets are also working with us, and you can see that by looking at the house that is transiting in for each planet, generationally speaking. And then, but you can also see how you're also impacting the generation. Okay, Saturn and Jupiter are still in Aquarius, even though they're in retrograde. There's still a lot of shit collectively that we're all getting together, that we're getting a lot of communication on, that we're getting a lot of enlightenment on, that we're trying to, at the end of the day, heal from, grow from, and elevate ourselves from. Like, it's not just like this limiting kind of like box, or like thinking that, and I don't know why I keep having to say this. I think this year, out of any other year, I keep having to say this. For some reason, it keeps coming up, but the world does not revolve around you. And I think the reason why this is coming up so hard is because of the Aquarian presence, because Aquarius rules individuality, but it also rules the collective energies. It's not just about, your individual self. It's about what you bring to the collective within your spirit. What are you bringing to the collective? What are you doing? What are you adding? How are you benefiting anything? Like, how and why and how? And so when we talk about that kind of focus on looking at the generational planets, there's people that are going to just focus on the generational planets and take it on a personal level, right? Just in an individualistic level, but they're not going to think about, okay, but how is what I'm going through, how am I impacting the collective, whether it be my community, my friends, my circle, whatever it is, like my family members, how am I impacting the collective at this time? There's a lot of reflecting back and forth that's happening. There's a lot of healing back and forth that's happening. And so it's a lot of healing. It's a lot of healing. I feel like the Earth itself needs a lot of love, needs a lot of healing, needs a lot of empowerment, needs a lot of, needs to be honored and respected properly. And that's something that hasn't happened in quite a bit of time. There's been so much disrespect, so much abuse, and it's just, it's just critical at this point that we kind of get our shit together. Like we really need to get our shit together. And it starts with us working collectively and you know, actually breaking down some of this generational trauma that we have also collectively been handed down, because a lot of the government issues, a lot of like the social and political issues and all this kind of shit, all of that is generational trauma that has been passed down through the last generations who created the environment for these ideologies to thrive. And so right now is that time where you have to think about, you know, is your mindset, is what you're doing in your life, is that benefiting? Now, does it benefit you, but does it also benefit everybody else? Does it benefit the collective? Because when you live in just an individual mindset, you are detaching yourself from how you impact everybody else with your individuality, with your own purpose, with your own spirit, right? And then when you just work for the community, you're disconnecting from how what you need individually. There has to be a balance from the two. And this is why Aquarius is a water bearer, right? So they rule the collective and they also rule individuality. It's a little bit of a conundrum, but this is why they're the water bearer. It's like what you ultimately are able to give to the other side. And even when you look at it in tarot, you can see the differences. Let me try to find the card for y'all so we can actually talk about it. Hold on. I gotta find the card. I gotta find it. Hold on. It's gonna take me a minute. Almost there. Okay. Almost and coming and 1 second. Let it not be the last card on this deck. Okay, I found it. I'm like, God, it's too far back. Okay, so if you look at the card, the star card, this is the card of Aquarius in astrology, right? If you look closely at what's happening, you have to pay attention to the water, because water, even though Aquarius is an air sign, okay, connected to the crown, connected to the universe, because of that Uranus energy. Aquarius as a star, if you think about what stars are, if you think about stars in general, like when you think of a star, what do you think about, like, as a star? You think of something very distant but shiny, right? Or some might think of a celebrity and whatnot. But when you think of a star, you think of something that's shining, very distant, and you know you can see it as sometimes at the night, and you know, depending where you are, because you know there's light pollution, especially in New York City. But you see it as something that's almost out of this world, because it is out of this world. And scientifically, you know, stars are definitely like light that has been traveling through time and space. And a lot of the stars you see are often said, you know, those stars don't exist anymore. You're just watching the light pass through. It's like this whole entire thing. But when you look at the star, again, there's that detachment, that distance about it. And it highlights also how we distance ourselves collectively, because Aquarius also rules what? Detachment. Aquarius rules detachment. And even if you wanted to look at this on a celebrity kind of perspective, celebrities are actively detached from us. They only shine when they want to shine, when they have something to put out or whatever the hell it is. But they're distant from us. They're not necessarily us, right? And so when you look at the star card and you look about what's happening in this card, you see the sky, you see stars, you see almost like this kind of like row of stars happening in the sky. And then you see this person and you see two water jugs, right? Two water jugs. Now, the way that the two water jugs is being represented is completely different, because in one you see a lake, right, or a pond or whatever it is, a river, whatever you want to think that it is. And then on the other side you see the water being poured down to the ground, which leads into this larger stream of consciousness. So there's different layers to the water and what it does. One is bearing into the ground itself, right? And so even though the earth itself is getting that nourishment, the earth is getting that light, that sunlight, that light from a distance is getting shown. You're still able to see that star from a distance, right? Or even if you wanted to look at this through the eyes of a celebrity, you're still getting content from that celebrity, right? They're still showing up in some capacity. You know who they are, whatever the hell. So they're still like pouring in. And once the earth has gotten too much water, it forms a little bit of a stream and it connects back into the larger stream of water. Okay. And so when you think about Aquarius, this is literally how they are. This is the individual you. This is who you individually are and what you are focused on. And ultimately, who you are in a larger way connects back into the community, the larger stream of consciousness. It connects back into the collective. You're ultimately pouring your own emotions, your own intentions, your own manifestations, your own life, your own spirit, right? Into the consciousness, into the collective. When you are trying to manifest love, when you are trying to manifest money, when you're trying to manifest a new opportunity or whatnot, you are trying to tap into the larger stream of consciousness because you cannot manifest this on your own individually. You need to connect to this so this can bring you what you want. And so Aquarius is not just about your individuality. And also keep in mind that Aquarius and Leo are opposite signs. Leos are definitely more focused on this individual kind of energy, but Aquarius is the reactionatory to that. It focuses on the collective energies. So you can't, take away everything that's happening to us collectively and not think that there is also a personal reason, a personal journey that we're taking. It's a reflection. We're mirroring that right now. We're mirroring that. It's not just happening, kind of like, oh, this just kind of happened to me, or you know what, I had to let go of a friend because they were being really toxic and all that kind of stuff. But you see what happens when you just let go of that friend. What does that open you up to in the future? What was that person blocking that you weren't able to retain because they were taking up too much space in your life? How can you now spend your time now that person is no longer taking up space in your life? There is a focus on not just looking at something as the world revolving around you, but also looking at it as, well, you know what, Abby, if the world doesn't revolve around me, then what does it revolve around? What does the universe revolves around? What does the sun revolve around? The collective. We are all getting sunlight. We are all getting sunlight. We're all getting the moon. We are all experiencing different things. We all have different spiritual perceptions. We all deal with spirit differently. We all have different relationships to the same type of spirits. But that doesn't mean that our experiences are not valid, but how we contribute to the collective based on our experiences is very important. And you need to keep that in mind when you're navigating a lot of this, because I feel like a lot of the time people get lost and they feel like they don't know what to do. And I get a lot of readings like that where people in the comments, it's just like, I'm like stuck, or I'm not sure, and stuff like that. And it's either one or the other. Either they're focusing on themselves, on their own individual selves for too long, not thinking about the collective purpose, right? The collective consciousness, or is the opposite. They're not focusing on themselves, and so it is affecting their relationship to the collective consciousness. It's layers. It's layers, and it's about understanding. And this is literally the relationship between, like within astrology, the personal planets and the generational planets. The personal planets are very much all about you. The generational planets is about the generation, because you're not the only person in your generation. Therefore, you shouldn't think that you are doing things or going through things by yourself, that you are experiencing things by yourself, that nobody can understand your pain, your issues, your struggles, your relationships, that nobody can understand. That's just not, it's just not true. It's just not. It's just not. A lot of the time, it's like where people might want to spend time alone, they need to actually spend time with people. Because people can be healing. They can be manipulative. They can be a lot of things. But people, we as collective peoples can be very healing. Coming together as peoples can be so healing to our collective energy, can be so healing to who we are, what we understand. And this goes hand in hand with ancestor work too. When you get together with your ancestors, when you say, you know, I would like to get to know you, I would like to understand you, I would like to, you know, like to figure out where I'm from, what blood, whose blood am I carrying, whose is this, who, which ancestor started what? Give me the tea. Yeah, ancestral tea is a thing. But it's super important to understand that there's like this feeling of aloneness that comes from us just concentrating on ourselves too much, and we forget that there's a grander thing there. Like when you feel alone, all your ancestors are just sitting there like, so what, are we just here for the lulls? Are we doing something today? Like, because they most definitely already went through what you went through, just in a different time and place. And it looked different, but that doesn't mean they don't understand what you're going through. And so when we go into hermit mode and hermit phase, because that's what Virgo season focuses on, going into that hermit mode, seeking that knowledge, finding that healing. You're not meant to stay in that cave and hermit for the rest of your life. You're not meant to do that. You're not meant to just, you know, segregate yourself from everybody, segregate yourself from your family, like be angry all the time, just stay in a certain zone the whole entire time. There's no growth there. There's no growth there. Those kind of like, every time I've ever heard the words like people never change and oh, men are like this and women are like that and all that kind of stuff, that always, it's so weird. It was always so weird when people would say that, because I would always just be like, do you even understand how the collective works? Like the more you feed into the negativity and the like detachment from the thing, and you just looking at it from an individual level, like if you were hurt by somebody, now you're projecting all of your trauma onto the whole entire, you know, population of peoples, not realizing that you're creating more of a division. Because when you're preaching that, when kids hear that, when people who don't know how to like discern yet properly, when they hear stuff like that, they start to believe those things. And so they start disassociating from the collective. And so us as collective people, we get put into like these little kind of like trauma boxes. We get put into like these separate, like segregated kind of spaces where we're just like, oh no, I can't have girlfriends because they're all like petty and they're all going to sleep with whoever I'm with, and like all of this kind of stereotypical drama and trauma that we have like accumulated from the past generations, from the things that have been handed down and passed down. Now is the time to revisit a lot of those things and think about how we're collectively working together, how we're collectively being a community and actively working for and having a purposeful cause. Because the problem right now is that there hasn't been a lot of collective unison, because if you look at those in power, they actively love to separate everybody. They don't want unification, because if people are united in one specific cause, then they're going to have a problem, specifically when it comes to power, right? And so when we heal our collective bond, when we heal our collective energies, when we try to understand ourselves versus our individual selves and what we're bringing to the table, balancing that out, understanding our individuality and understanding our collective purpose. When we understand those two things, then we can be better members within those communities. We can then be there for each other. We can then make space, because we understand that it's not, the world does not just revolve around just us. It just doesn't. It just never will. And for the people that do actually believe that, those are the same people that are stuck in this kind of mindset where they get disappointed by the collective a lot. When they think that the world should just revolve around them, they get disappointed by the collective when the collective doesn't back them up, or it's not paying attention to them, or it's just not interacting, or they're not able to like get a break within the collective energies because they're focusing too much on themselves versus the collective. What does the collective need? What do you bring to the table versus what is it that you do best, that you can bring to the collective, that actively needs to be brought to the collective, that the collective will benefit from? That's where Jupiter is at right now. Like if you're actually tapping into Jupiter's like abundance and luck and expansive energies right now, especially while it's in retrograde, you need to recheck yourself when it comes to the collective energies, because Jupiter in Aquarius highlighting that individuality and the collective energies. It's going to ask you, it's like, okay, but what are you bringing to the table? Why do you want this promotion? Is it for the money, or are you actually trying to actually grow in the company, or can you actually contribute something, or is this something that you're passionate about? You're not going to get it just by trying to kind of like manipulate your way around it, because that's not where the energies are right now. This is not a time for manipulation. Even with Venus and Scorpio, it is not a time for manipulation. It is a time for looking at how we're impacting each other and rechecking our foundations, because Uranus and Taurus and Pluto and Capricorn have been actively destroying foundations left and right. There's been a lot of reevaluating the foundations, reevaluating a lot of what we believe in, what businesses we buy from, all of this kind of stuff. There's been a lot of reevaluating, and it comes from that foundation of like, okay, wait, you're supporting who? I don't want to buy from you because you're supporting this person, and that person hates me or hates people that do this, or is homophobic, or whatever the hell it is. Whatever the hell it is. There's more mindfulness when it comes to looking at the structure and around the things that people are doing. This is why businesses that have been created during the pandemic are not the same as the businesses before the pandemic. There's a lot of self-awareness now. There's a lot of self-awareness even with the government. There's a lot of self-awareness with social media. There's a lot of self-awareness. And this is why it's important to understand what your foundations are. What legs are you standing on? And that includes your ancestral like foundation. Whose blood are you carrying? What spirits were handed down to you? Because that's another thing that a lot of people don't even pay attention to. There's a lot of spirit guides that, have been passed down to you that actively, they're in part ancestral spirits. The only reason why you have them is because you had an ancestor that had them as well. And people don't really understand where they even get spirits from. Like, people don't even ask certain spirits, like, hey, how did you even come into my family? How did you come into my whole entire thing? Say hi to Luna, y'all. YouTube is getting Luna Beam, because Luna Beam is all up on the screen. So say hi to Luna, y'all. She wants attention because we 1000% went camping without her. And so she's just been wanting attention all day. But yeah, Luna Beam, she's watching y'all right now. That's all I'm going to say. She's watching y'all from behind the damn screen. She's checking everybody out to make she's giving y'all the clearance right now. So what do we need to know collectively for this week? Who is surprised that the Hermit card just came out? Because I am not. Who was surprised? What do we need to know collectively for this week? What do we need to know collectively for this week? By the way, for those who might have a question about this, the deck that I'm using is the Tarot of Nefertiti, which is one of my favorite decks. It's absolutely, absolutely gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. It's probably the only Kemetic deck that I actually like. I know I've mentioned this before, but yeah. What do we need to know collectively for this week? Okay. Bottom of the deck. Damn. Bottom of the deck. Okay, so we have the Hierophant. By the way, the bottom of the deck for me is highlighting the underlying energies. So the energies that you're not even really paying attention. It really highlights a lot of the subconscious energies that, you know, people don't really pay attention to. But yeah. So we have the Hierophant, the Five of Swords, the Page of Swords, and the Star card. Yup, those are the bottom of the deck energies. Look at this. Look at this. Look at the Star card in this deck. How gorgeous is that? How gorgeous. That is just gorgeous. But that is the bottom of the deck energy. Who is surprised? I am not surprised. For this week, we're getting the Justice card. Okay, Justice card, Queen of Pentacles and the Moon. Okay, Queen of Pentacles and the Moon. We're getting Hermit and the Nine of Swords in reverse. Okay, Hermit and the Nine of Swords in reverse. Look at that foil, y'all. Look at that. Chicka pow, chicka pow, chicka pow, pow, pow. I love this deck so much. But there's definitely a lot of things going on when it comes to our balance. I feel like a lot of people are really restructuring and regrounding this week, but there's also a lot of things going on within the spiritual realm. This is why the Moon card is being highlighted here, especially when it comes through some of the downloads that we're going to be getting. Not everything is going to make sense. That's something Spirit is being very, very clear right now. Not everything is going to make sense. There are certain things that you need to dive in deeper on, that you personally need to do a little bit of a meditation, or even ask for guidance from Spirit. Just ask them, hey, you know, you sent me this dream, but what were you trying to say? There was, I didn't understand the full meaning of it. Like, I need to dive into it more. I need to go into the Hermit phase and actually, you know, understand what you were trying to say, because I'm a little confused, or I just need a little bit more clarity. I need to understand what the message is overall. I need to understand why this is coming up the way it is. I'm trying to get the clarity, but there are certain things that are happening within the subconscious mind. Okay. Virgo energy, the Libra energy being the conscious mindness, because Mercury is a planet of consciousness and communication. And so this being the Pisces card, highlighting the subconsciousness, meaning our dreams this week are going to need a little bit more reflection. There's certain things and certain spirits that are going to be moving a little bit funny this week that you out on, or even, you know, meditate on, or you know, even like read a flame, or however that you want to kind of address the energy. But I'm telling you, there are certain things that are not going to really make sense. And there are also certain things that you're going to now come into understanding, especially if you've been trying to get clarity on it for quite a long time, because the Nine of Swords is coming up in reverse, which is that this week we are going to actively understand the tea. Okay, there's some spiritual tea going on. And we're actually going to get that clarity this week. This week, the veil almost comes off and you're able to kind of see what has been going on, like what has been happening, what has, you know, what has been moving in the shadows, or even if your intuition was kind of signaling to you that certain things was being a little bit weird or odd or whatnot, you're going to be seeing that come out from the shadows into the light. You're going to actively be it's almost like you're inspecting it, and the truth is being revealed. Like out of the truth will be like, it's just coming into the light. That's the way that it's coming up. And it's kind of like, this is deep rooted. If you look at the bottom of the deck, the Hierophant, the Five of Swords, this is deep rooted. This is something that it's been going on. It's a mental thing too, whether it be communication, whether you find out that somebody's been talking shit about you, whether, I don't know, you did a spell, specifically because right underneath the bottom of the deck for the Star card is the High Priestess with the Ten of Pentacles. Like, somebody's been trying to mess with you. I feel like this is a really great week to do a blockbuster spell, or to do a return to sender, okay? Because it still seems that certain people are trying to knock us down from our very grounded state. And because this is the Hierophant is a Taurus card in tarot, and Uranus is in Taurus, and it is in retrograde, we might be feeling some residual spiritual BS coming through from other people. So this is a really great week to do some return to sender, you know. Be very clear on what you will not be consenting to energetically for people who are trying it. And just kind of do a cleansing. I would definitely do a cleansing. I just came back from the woods and I'm about to do a cleansing for me and Babe, actually, because the energy where I'm at and the energy where I was at is two different energies, and I need to recalibrate to where I'm at. So I'm about to do a whole baño. So I highly recommend doing a cleansing and doing some protection work this week. This week calls for protection work. This week calls for some, I'm just saying, the vibe is very much the truth is coming out. I'm just saying. Collectively, what do we need to know this week? Collectively. Okay. All right. Oh, what do we need to know this week? Collectively. Okay. So we are getting release all anger and time to decide. Release all anger and time to decide. Why is this? Because what happens when you discover the truth? What are you going to do with the truth? What are you going to do with the truth? What happens when you discover the truth? What happens when you discover the truth? You then have to make a decision, right? You then have to sort out your reaction to it, right? This is why we're getting release all anger, because some of what's going to come to light this week is not going to make you happy. I'm just going to be very, very clear on that. It's something that has actively been causing you a lot of, like, it's almost like it's a missing piece of the puzzle, like, that's coming together. But it's one of those things where we're not going to be happy with the answer that we're receiving. So we're going to have to decide what we're going to do about it. And this really comes down to what you're willing to tolerate. I'm going to be very clear on that. What are you willing to tolerate from other people? What are you willing to tolerate from other people and the way that they decide to treat you and the way that they decide to move, especially if they move in funny? Okay. Archangel Michael, what do we need to know collectively? Okay, that was a little fast. You're moving a little bit fast today. But it's one of those things where we have to make sure that we are protecting ourselves from those that are trying to take a lot of our mental peace away. And that's really what it's coming down to. I'm just saying. Now, from Archangel Michael specifically focusing on eternal love this week. So let's read the prayer, shall we? And the prayer goes, help me perceive all of the love that surrounds me so that I can feel safe receiving and expressing and giving love. Okay? Eternal love. And the next one is, your children are watched over by angels. Okay? And the prayer goes, dear guardian angels of my children born and unborn, thank you for watching over my children and ensuring the happiness and their safety. Please guide me so that I know the best way to be a good parent and role model for my own and other people's children. Why is this important and why is this coming up now? Well, one, this is one of those things where this is not only something that's happening from the ancestors, because you know that saying that people love to say, your ancestors' prayers are still protecting you today. This is a fact. That's a fact, because prayers transcend time and space just as much as stars do. Like we were talking about earlier, they transcend time and space. So when you have this card coming up, that's one, a focus on the ancestors, but also a focus on what you're doing right now to benefit your future, especially if having children and having in expanding collectively is something that you personally want to do. If it's something that you personally do not want to do, if it's something that you personally feel like it's not for you, that's 1000% valid. And that's, you know, different experience than everybody else. And it might just be your ancestors coming through for you. Right now, especially if you are in need of protection, which we have established that we are. So there's kind of this energy of, this is a very sensitive time right now when it comes to not only relationships, but also when it comes to how we have been protected by our ancestors, and how our ancestors and how we are setting ourselves up to be ancestors as well. It's like a two-way relationship. It's not just one thing. It's multiple things. It's multiple things. And you can't think that, you know, oh no, this doesn't apply to you. Actually check in with your ancestors and see how it does. See how it does. Like I said at the beginning of this live, do you know your ancestors? Do you know where they come from? Do you know their practices? What did they contribute to the family? We've been talking this whole entire live about individuality and the collective. That includes with your ancestors. What did your ancestors add to the collective ancestral collective energy? Huh? What did they add? You know what some of them add? Some of them added traumas. Some of them added their gifts. Some of them added financial abundance. This is why there's some members of the family or some parts of the family that can be very wealthy or can be very good at certain skills or crafts or whatnot. Some of them pass down traumatic emotional issues. Some of them pass down really, really, really bad issues with crime. So what did your ancestors pass down to you? Do you know? Have you asked? One of the things I did very, very early on was I had a list. I wrote down a list. I was like, okay, I want to talk to the ancestors that specifically had anything to do with assault. I want to talk to the ancestors that had specifically anything to do with colonization. I want to talk to the ancestors that had, I literally would go into my meditations and I would straight up interrogate my ancestors because I needed to know. I wanted to know who I was going to be talking to. I needed to know how I was going to be having to talk to them and what my relationship with them was going to look like based on what they passed down to me through their blood, because blood is absolutely one of the most powerful tools spiritually that you can ever use. And so it's important to understand what your ancestors passed down to you. Some of them passed down a lot of protection. Some of them passed down a lot of spirits that you don't even know are still there with you. You just see them as a spirit guide. You don't even know their goddamn name. Y'all, we need to, I need, you guys know I'm really big on spiritual education. And I'm really big at pushing y'all to be spiritually educated. Okay? And so that includes knowing who you're working with. Because the reason why a lot of people get into these conversations about, oh, I had a trickster spirit and this spirit was pretending to be that, it's because you don't even know who you're talking to. It's like you jump into trust so quickly, you don't even know who you're talking to. Hi, my baby. No, I can't reach over right now because a boobie's gonna pop out. My baby just came home, so yeah. If you heal traumas and stuff, will you not then pass it down? If you heal your traumas, you're not passing it down. If I healed for example, if I heal my colonial trauma, which I have already healed for my family, I'm not passing colonial trauma down to my kids or those who share my ancestry, like my sister, or even some members of my distant family, because I have like third, like cousins and stuff like that, but we only share like one ancestor or something like that. So for that one ancestor, I would have already healed the thing. So it's one of those things that if you heal it, it's not getting passed down. If it's been addressed, it's not getting passed down. And this is why I always say millennials and those who are Gen Z, our generations are actively healing the traumas of the past generation. Okay? You're actively healing the traumas of the past generation because we got handed down a bunch of shit, a bunch of mess. It's been a hot mess, y'all. And so now is the time where we need to get our shit together. Because why? We are getting ready to pass down. Our generation is going to be passing shit down too, okay? You can't just think, oh man, my ancestors sent me up. What are you setting the future for? And this is what I'm saying. You need to think about what yourself individually, how you are contributing to the collective. That includes your family members. That includes your ancestors, and you setting yourself up to become an ancestor as well, if that is what you're going to choose to do. Now, it's like you're healing the whole family line. Exactly. Now, it takes work. I'm not saying it's easy. Okay. I'm not saying it's easy, but it's something that 1000% is doable. 1000% is doable if you apply yourself, you work on it, if you and this is why I always say, y'all, I say this, I'm a broken record. The two things that you should be focusing on as a spiritual person, the absolute most should be healing work and protection work. You should be protected while you're healing. You should be protected while you're growing. You should be protected while you're manifesting for yourself. So protection is absolutely necessary, especially in this day and age, okay? But healing is the most important, because when you are healed, it's easier for you to manifest other shit. Generally speaking, it's just easier. It's easier to manifest other shit because you're not being weighed down by other things. You're not being blocked by other things. You're able to tap in and use your energies a lot better. And ancestrally, your ancestors are going to just, well, you already heal it, right? So it's about making sure that you are in a thriving spiritual place versus a drained one. Okay. For protection, can I protect my room, or do I have to do the whole house? I personally do a little bit of both, but I have roommates, so I do a little bit of both, but I do the most in my room because that's where I have like I make it very sacred. But I do the whole house to the whole block. I have different protections in my room versus the house versus the block. But you also have to understand that when it comes to doing it to your whole house, you have to keep in account of everybody else that lives there, who their personalities are, what they bring to the house's energies. Because again, individuality versus a collective and what you're bringing to the table. You can, pray for protection and set the foundation for that. But if there's somebody in the house blocking that shit, that's going to make it a lot more difficult, which is why your room should be that most sacred place, if that's what you have. You have to work with what you have. But even when it comes to like my block, for example, I have specific protective barriers within the block. But I also understand that I'm not the only one that lives in this block. So if there are certain people in the block who happen to have very toxic personalities, I can't necessarily prevent that, but I can, I could probably, do some things, get them out the block. But for the most part, it's one of those things that you have to have discernment. You have to have discernment, because if you're going to be co-living energetically with different people, you have to understand how you're all affecting each other, what you're all bringing to the table collectively. So there's certain things you can't override certain things. Like certain, if you have roommates or you have parents and stuff like that, you can't override their own energy. You can't override their own will. Okay, we can talk about control in a separate video, because y'all know I work with Santa Marta la Dominadora. But this domination work is something else. But it's one of those things that you can't always just break someone's consent and force them to be in the structure that you want them to. So sometimes, you might need to do a little, thing or two to get somebody to move out of that space or whatnot. But it comes down to what the energy of your home, like what you want it to look like, what you want it to, how do you want it to feel like, and what you're willing to tolerate too. Like what is the energy of your home? What do you want to, what are you trying to sustain there? And if somebody is causing you to like have different breaks in, or even their energy is just draining or whatnot, like how are you dealing with that? What is it that you want from that? So there's been plenty of times that I have gotten rid of my roommate spiritually because of stuff like that. And at the end of the day, it works out for the both of us. So it's just one of those things you have to like keep in mind. Because I have to hide it from your family. If you have to hide your practice from your family, then just focus on your room. But there's ways to put like protective barriers in your house without putting any type of like visible workings, if that makes sense, without having to put anything physically. But you have to have a strong spiritual practice to be able to sustain it energetically, because that's basically doing a lot of energy work. So yeah, I don't know your practice, so I wouldn't know how to guide you in that. But if you have not started with energetic healing work or energetic work period, then that's what I would recommend for you to do if you wanted to do it on an energetic level, or even just working with spirits too, because you can also do that. Just saying. Agreed, I would protect my room, then work outward. That's what I do. That's what I personally do. I can't practice openly. Is burning a simple white candle and prayer enough? So, well, I mean, it comes down to, it depends what you're trying to do. That's what it comes down to. That's what it comes down to. You also have to understand that not all like spells or like modern spells were done in that way, like just lighting a candle and saying a prayer. Prayer is something that's very big, even in very, in indigenous practices, spiritual practices, and ceremony is a big thing. But you can do so much with not a lot, and you don't have to do it in your room either. You can be outside in nature. That's literally how I spent majority of my camping trip. I literally like whooped out my deck one time the whole entire trip. And that's because I like to do this thing when I'm outside. And it depends on where I am, because it doesn't always happen. Like if I'm in the islands, I barely read the cards. It just doesn't. I'm usually just talking to the nature spirits directly. But I like to whoop out a deck sometimes and just be like, okay, I would like to get messages directly for the nature spirits. And I was just pulling cards for everybody that went to the camping trip. And we were just pulling cards from the nature spirits directly. And, sometimes you got to go to the bar. Sometimes you got to go to a lake, be by a river somewhere, go somewhere outside of your home space. You don't always have to light a white candle. Like you can, because fire is a very powerful element, but it is a modernized way to work with spirit. So it depends on, for you, what is enough. Like what does your practice look like? You have to really think about what your practice looks like right now, and how you kind of want to address it. Because there's a lot of things that you can do energetically that does not need any physical tools whatsoever. And I hope that made sense. My focus recently has been finding new ancestral lines, since I feel no connection to some of my ancestors. Yeah, that's gonna happen. Like, and I always mention this. You're not gonna need to work with all of your ancestors, y'all. It's not a thing, because some ancestors are not meant for you. I don't know who needs to hear this. Some ancestors are not meant for you. Your cousins need help too. Okay, again, like I said earlier, your world does not revolve around you. So your cousins needs help. Your sister, your siblings need help. Okay, your mom still needs help. Okay, not all ancestors are going to be like BFFs with you, so you have to understand that you do have like some main ancestors that are very, very present. As a collective, they do show up together, but you're not always going to be able to, work with all of them in a one-on-one basis. There's going to be different times in your life that a different ancestor will kind of take the lead in some aspects. But it's still important to know whose blood you're carrying. And there's going to be times that you can learn whose blood you're carrying, but you might not even have to do much with them, aside from when you're calling on them generally. So it's one of those things that is just about dissecting a lot of different things, and understanding what needs to be done, generally speaking. What do you recommend for healing? Well, it depends, because there's so many different ways to heal, spiritually speaking. There's like emotional healing. There's I took it away. There's spiritual healing. There's healing with plant medicine, so with the earth. There's healing with the nature spirits. There's like energy healing, Reiki healing. There's, oh my god, there's so many different types of healing, like, honestly, that you can do. There's healing through food. There's healing through so many different types of healing, and I feel like you should write a list of all of the ones you already do and see which ones you want to incorporate or add, or see which ones you need to change or adapt, or, kind of like switch, or maybe incorporate something new, or like, like which one do you actually need to be using during this time. But my favorite, y'all, it's hard to say. I really love 13th Octave Lao Chi. That one is ridiculously powerful. That's an energy healing form, but it's just obscenely powerful, just because of, like, I can't break everything down right now. I'm gonna make a video on it specifically, because I feel like it's a whole entire thing, but it's really, really, really powerful. It combines not only angel healing, but it's a lot. I can't even break it all down today. But it's just such a, like, the first time I even had it done to me, it was just such a powerful experience, y'all. I slept for like, I think, like 8 hours after that, and it was in the middle of the day. It was crazy. But there's so many different ways to heal. And mastering healing, it takes a while, because you have to kind of learn all of the different modalities within healing itself. So yeah, I have ancestors from multiple countries. What do you do if you have little to no connection to some of your ancestors? You learn about those countries, you learn about those practices, you learn about that. You have to educate yourself. It really comes down to that. You also have to understand different ways that you have been called into those specific ancestors, or like, and in any way, shape, or capacity in which you have been called to them. You also have to understand their presence, what they added to your ancestors and stuff like that. And if you're heavily mixed, like I'm heavily mixed, y'all, because y'all know I'm Dominican. But if you're heavily mixed, you end up having a lot of ancestors you wouldn't even know you had from beforehand. It's one of those things. So it's really important to at least understand what spirits you gained from that ancestor, what skills you gained from that ancestor, what they contributed. So when you even like ask or have your meditations, those are the things that I would focus on asking, because again, you're not going to be able to work with all of them on a BFF one-on-one, that they're your person kind of ancestor kind of thing, but you should still know what they contributed to the bloodline. That's the big one. Are you an Ifa or something yet? No, I am not, because Spirit did not want me to get initiated, because they said I did not need to. So that is the answer to that question. Yeah, y'all, so I'm going to sign off. We ended up being here for like a whole entire hour, so I guess my hotspot didn't go away. But I will definitely see y'all in the next video. I hope that y'all enjoyed this, and I will see y'all at the weekly prayer circle and the weekly community oracle poll as well. And I have videos uploading, so y'all getting videos on my YouTube. If you are new here, definitely make sure you're following me on YouTube, because that is literally where they get the longer videos and all that kind of jazz. So yeah, I will see you on the next video, guys. Bye. Ooh, the light just walked. Bye, y'all. Have a good night. Bye. Wait. Oh, there it is. Buttons all the way over there. Bye, y'all. Have a good night.